Our first assignment is going to be 4 of these shapes. We're going to look at the right rectangular, but realistically the right rectangular, the right square, and the hexahedron or the cube are going to be the same basic technique. And then the right cylinder has 2 methods to create it. The right circular has 2 methods to create it, and the sphere pretty much one. We'll do the rest as examples. I will try to take on the dodecahedron and the icosahedron in a video, but those are usually pretty long videos, so we'll wait till the end for that. All right, so main thing here is that as you're looking at these shapes, the right rectangular, the cylinder, occasionally the cone, those are going to be the majority of what we do for our design. We can say that probably 80 to 90% of our mechanical design is going to be those 3 shapes. So going over into SolidWorks and creating the part, we're really not concerned about geometries. So real quick comment on this video. We're going to go through this fairly quick so that I can discuss terminology and process, and then we'll go back and do each one individually for the follow along in the assignment. So since I don't have the origin, and we'll also at the end of this group make our template because I'm already tired of making these changes. So let's go ahead and open up a sketch. My preferred method is front plane and sketch. Pre-selecting, know what I'm going to get. We're going to go into the rectangle. Let's jump back over here real quick. So the right rectangular, we can draw square on the front, rectangle on the bottom, rectangle on the right. I guess that would be the top plane, the front plane, the left plane, and the right plane, basically the same thing. So it just depends on which way you want to orient your model. Oh, I lost something there. So we are in the front plane. We'll go into the rectangle. Our first and primary rule of sketching is we're going to attach something to the origin. It won't go out fully defined unless we create that initial relation. All right, so I'm just dragging my rectangle out some direction. We can go pretty much any way. I'm doing the left click, hold down, and drag. It shows that it's a completed contour region, and our dimensions are fairly arbitrary. So if I go 1 by 2, and then that was kind of the scale. So depending on how close we are to the sizing, then it will adjust the rest of the dimensions rather than stretching one out. So if we're really small, it wouldn't make it really big, and if we're really big, it wouldn't make it really small and have to catch up with the rest of the geometry. So at this point, we can go into Features, Extrude, and we'll take a look through the Property Manager here. So the from and the options to offset and start from a surface, vertex, or offset, we won't use those right away, but it's a way to manipulate the starting point. Direction 1, we have, well, let's drag this out a little bit more. We can go front to back, back to front. Blind in condition, there's nothing really to be up to vertex, up to surface, offset from surface, up to body. We need another object, another body existing, another sketch. And then midplane would flip it across to where we're going both directions. So if I stay blind and go 1 inch that way, I could put on direction 2 and say blind, go 2 inches the other way, and those would be accumulated. So the other thing that I could do, just manipulating this a little bit, is if I offset this 1 inch this way and then tell it to go 3 inches the other way. All right, so just so you get a sense of what the from does. I'm not really interested in using that right now, but it gets overlooked quite a bit, and we don't do anything much with it. So So 1 by 2 by 3. I want you to get used to the solid bodies. They have a lot of functionality, and so I can right click and hide show on that body. So if we go into the top plane, I'm going to stay with the 1 by 2 by 3, and I want to go about there. Alright, so looking at the sketch, 2 lines in black, endpoint, endpoint, and endpoint are in blue, as well as the 2 lines. We apply the first dimension. We got 2.995. Yeah, we're not going to stay with that. We'll go with 3 inches and 1 inch. And then I'm going to extrude that out to 2 inches. And that will give us the second solid body that is basically the exact same thing as the first solid body. And then the last one, of course, would be going into the right plane. And if I've checked my orientation on these correctly, then when we show all of these again, 3 by 2, and I want to extrude that out, and we'll make sure it's going that way, and it goes 1 inch. Okay, so then I can go back and show. No net gain, no net gain. But because these are individual solid bodies, at any time I turn the merge on, this will go back to being a single solid body. So when we're looking at this feature, and if I merge the result, and we go to two solid bodies, and merge the result. So that's kind of the method, and the purpose of hiding those is so that it doesn't automatically turn the merge. If I do this one more time, front plane, sketch, and just to show you the alternative, so 1 by 2, and I'm not tying anything to the existing geometry much. Hopefully it's just sharing the origin. 3 inches, go the other direction. All right, so here's the merge result. By hiding those, I have checked those off, and they're not any, uncheck that, and it's not in my way or anything that I'm dealing with. So if I uncheck, then I go back to, I have Boss Extrude 4, and then I have the previous 3 gathered up. We go back one more time, merge the result, and what we're going to see is this has no net gain. When we go to do a mask properties, tell it that this is aluminum or steel, and it does the calculation based on the volume and the density of the material, tells us how much it weighs. When we do these individually and we have all those solid bodies, then it's cumulative. We'll have 4 times whatever is in that group. All right, so let's let's go ahead and merge that result. And also notice that the feature scope, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but as soon as we have those other solid bodies, there are things that we can go through and select for. So if I'm just doing the one, we'll save. And this is where we need to start doing our file management. So if I go into my Maricopa and my drive, these are going to be the 2022 fall assignments, something along those lines. Okay. And then I need to create a folder for assignment 1. So this is more on the Windows side, but being able to organize and not have everything that you've ever done in one folder with all of the naming parts and pieces as issues. All right, so part 1. Let's see, this is going to be my, we'll just go with the rectangular. All right, so let's see, I did Yeah, I think I did. I want to go ahead and then go back to each of these. I should have just turned these off. Okay, so that one's the merge results off, and that one the merge results off. All right, so anywhere in that combination, we could, if I was to merge the result on 4, it would merge back into 1 because it's gathering up everything. All right, so let's go back and we'll leave that one as the first, and I'll modify the second. All right, so extrude 2, I want to make the square rectangular. So it is 1 by 1 by 2, and we rebuild that to make sure anytime I just change on the fly, it's going to require that I rebuild the part. So we'll hide that one, show that one, and if we go to the cube then, which would be 3, right, so we're still keeping those same values. And what I'm looking at, let's double check that looking at. Let's go ahead and rebuild it, and we'll zoom up just a little bit. When I double click on this, you're going to see the 2 dimensions with the black extension lines, and not quite apparent there. But the blue extension line is the feature dimension. So these 2 are in the sketch, and this one is the feature. All right, so we have the 3. What else was I interested in? We're not going to do the oblique just yet. All right, so we have the 3 that we need and an extra. So go ahead and save this. I'm going to do this group as separate parts. Using the same solid body technique, we could generate all 4 of these in the same group. And for the assignment, we're just looking for the one of the rectangle. Pretty much pick one to put into the drawing. But for our illustration, we'll go ahead and have the three separate. So that was the rectangular. For the cylinder then, we jump back over, and so looking at the cylinder, we can draw the circle and extrude it up, or we can draw a rectangle, so basically cut this in half and then quarter it so that we're looking at this rectangular shape, and that will give us the same type of geometry. All right, so let's go with the circle first. So doing it this way, I'm going to need to, and I know I'm clicking through these again. We're going to go back and go over this a little bit slower so that you can follow along with the video. Okay, so that gives me my first. And just so you can see this, maybe it would be a good illustration if I drew this in the top plane. By quartering it, I'm pretty much saying I want to do this, and if I tie it to that existing cylinder, well, that's going to be assuming I'm not going to suppress it. I'm going to create that parent-child relation. So this is one of those places that for most I don't have to have. I can put the 1/2 inch. I don't have to have a center line, but whenever I do revolves, it helps me to think about my axis of revolution and what I'm telling it to do. But if I don't have a center line, then it's going to ask me to generate it. So we go back over into the features, revolve the boss base. It needs an axis of revolution. If I pick that one, it goes that way. If I pick that one, it goes that way. And that way. And then that's the one that I was looking for. If we merge the result, one solid body, a positive into positive, no net result, but a separate solid body gives us 2 items. So I can expand out my solid bodies, hide, show, and at this point we're looking at the same thing. The only real difference is which one we're picking. So that will take care of the cylinder. And we'll get that one in there. And another new part will go into the cone. So the other thing of mentioning is if you just uncheck the merge result and you don't have the solid bodies turned on, shown it in several previous videos, so since I've blown through these pretty quick, let's do it one more time. It is going to be the options, little gear up here, and then we want the feature manager, and under solid bodies, do the pull down, make sure that says show. Alright, so just in case, and since I'm opening up new parts, my little blue origin, another good reason to create my first template. Alright, so the cone, the conical, right circular conical shape, is also going to be a revolve. There is another method that I'm going to save for when we go through the rest of these, but it amounts to a loft to a point. So it's an interesting technique, but it requires a little bit more. For our purposes, oh, I slipped into S key mode, so there is the S key or L on the keyboard. Having those different methods. And again, I am a click dragger, not so much of a click. If you're clicking through these, say that 10 times real fast. If you're clicking through these, then it's going to stay continuous, so you can add those values. All right, and my sketch numeric input is turned off, so if you want to use those, make sure that you're going over here and turning them on. I don't want to focus on that right now. We'll use that a little bit later. So I have my triangular shape, and depending on what I select, when I perform the revolve, and we didn't really go through the property management here. It's kind of it's typically going to be 360 degrees and a blind extrusion. Occasionally we'll make adjustments there, but there's not a whole lot to really adjust there. Since I didn't put in a center line, there's no axis of revolution. So when we go through this step by step, then I'll probably add the center lines. All right, so whatever I pick as far as the axis of revolution, that's going to determine my result. So that looks a little bit more like a spinny top, and that one a little flatter disc. And that's going to create the cone shape. All right, so the cone, and save that one. We'll go ahead and close it, and then one more new part. All right, so going into the sphere is not maybe not as common, but they do show up. So, and this is also a good place to use the midpoint line, since I don't use it too much. If I want to center this sphere at the origin by doing the midpoint, it adds that midpoint relation for me. And then I can select, we haven't used the sketch entities. And again, pick the ones that you are most comfortable. If you're most comfortable coming up to the command manager, do that. If you like the S key, we'll modify the S key a little bit. I think my S key's been modified, so that's always a concern that you're not saying the same things that I am. Or I have more than what you would have generated already on your screen. So I'm looking for the center point arc. I'm just looking at those tooltips. And the center point is going to be at the origin. We're going to drag out till we get that coincident concentric relation. And I'll just do this one as a click and drag through. If it doesn't go the way I want, I drag back to the start and drag through, and it will kind of jump. Make sure I'm getting the coincident or the concentric for the other side. And then because this is an arc, it's going to go radial. Right, and it kind of scales itself again. And then notice I'm not closing anything. I'm not even out of my dimension command at this point. I'm just jumping right into the revolve and saying next. All right, there is only one line to select here, and we accept that, and that gives us the sphere. All right, introducing the drawing then. We'll start with this one. So one of the quick ways is we can either open the drawing or make drawing from parts, since we're going to use the default. We'll make a simple template here in the next couple of lectures with the template. All right, so the ANSI A landscape. All right, and I'm not ever shy about saying that I'm not fond of this title block because it takes up a third of my working space. and that's kind of annoying. So with this, the view palette came up. So let's go ahead with the view palette. We're in the sphere. We'll do this a couple different ways for the introducing the drawing. And I drag this one in. It should go into the projected view. And because it's a sphere, they all look the same. Even the isometric is going to look the same. So this is why you have that SR, and I'm not sure if they've updated the abbreviation. I'm going to have to go go check the ASME standard. So it's at 2 inches. It finds that. But because I might want to modify that, let's see if it'll pop up. Right click, go into select, and then, oh, I don't remember that one, but display as radius, display as diameter, so that's handy. I'm looking for the little, well, there was handles that did that, but I guess they're not. But if we go SR, spherical radius, then let's go ahead and switch that over to, makes a little more sense, radius 1 inch SR. All right, I want to add another sheet. It's going to pick up the same sheet. Do I need all 4 of those views for the sphere? No, but it's a good illustration. So next method, and one that will probably come up if we just do the standard open the drawing, we can go into a model view. And since I've closed those other items, I'm going to browse. And let's start with the rectangle since it has the most solid bodies in it. And I'm not sure what I'm doing with the screen capture there, but I'll clear that out. All right, so this one comes in and says we want to make create multiple views, front. And oh yeah, we have my favorite. We are actually in first angle projection. I did not catch that for this template. So whenever you're in first angle projection, that's a whole nother discussion. Let's hold off on that one a little bit, and I'll do that as a snippet. All right, so let's fix that real quick. Oh, and it put everything in for me anyway. Oh, I need to be in the property for this sheet. So right click, and then one of the things that always kind of annoys me is I hardly ever delete sheets from this pop-up, but I use the properties quite a bit. All right, so up here in the sheet properties, type of projection, first angle, and we'll go to third angle. All right, so that did that update. All right, so now our isometric is up here instead of over here, and the views. And the quick is, I always kind of relate it, there's certainly a lot more explanation, but I always kind of relate it to at least the front views, that if you are holding the part in your hand and you rotate it to the left, you see this. If you rotate it to the right, you see this. You rotate it up, you see this. If the part's sitting on the table and you're walking around it, then the right is looking at it this way. The left is looking at it this way, so effectively opposite. All right, and I don't really need the we didn't really do an isometric. Let's go ahead and bring another projected view out, and we'll drop the isometric there. All right, so dimensions. We have 1 inch by 1 inch, and one of our, oh, not sure what it grabbed there that it gave me the 2, but we'll go with that. I think it opened the standard solid body. Yeah, it's pulling. I have not seen it do that, so let's go back to the property manager, and we're in the default sheet. So either that or that is not the parent view. No configuration. All right, so I'm not seeing the bodies just yet, so we're gonna have to look for that one. So it is picking up the 2-inch, which is interesting. So something to watch out for. See if it's doing it on this one. We are going to have some duplicate dimensions, but all right. Well, let's add a new sheet and see if that reversing it is what got me here. So I go with the browse again. I'll bring in another rectangular. There are no configurations. And then it's set to auto start, wherein the hidden lines are removed. All right, so let's go ahead and place that. And then it jumped, so that is interesting that my hide shows are affecting. Okay, so I'm gonna have to double check what I'm looking at, because in prior I would have seen select your solid bodies, not just the configuration. So might be something going on there. So let's go ahead and bring in the cone, and we'll browse to as well. And once we shift for the first angle projection to the third angle projection, that's a kind of a global document setting. So those two are going to be the same. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one out over so we can illustrate and I right click to do the check mark. Whenever you see that little mouse button with the check in it, you can right click. And so if I wanted to rotate these over, I get a little pop-up box that tells me that I can go 90 degrees. It's going to tell me I'm going to wipe out all your dimensions, so hopefully you haven't dimensioned everything. 90, not quite the way I was thinking about it going. I'm really not going to see a point or anything at the top. So 180 and apply. And lastly, we can go 270. Oh, maybe not 2700. Delete. There we go. And yes. All right, so close that. Don't really need that one. And we have those. So when I go to dimension this, slipped into the S key, we can go to the vertex. That little cylinder with the line was a silhouette edge, which can be handy. We're not ready for it just yet, but we can, as we drag along that edge, it's basically saying the line that is generated by the plane passing through that shape gives us something that we can relate to. So, and then the last one is our cylinder. All right, and I'm still not going to mess with the solid bodies, so we'll just go into the projected view, drag that one out, drag that one out. All right, so these are a little bit big. We'll close this out with the scaling. So the easiest is down here on the status bar. Click on from the 2:1 or whatever it was set at, go to 1:1. And apparently then there's another place that we have to check for. It's set to custom scale, so I need to tell it to use the sheet scale. All right, so something going on with this template. Don't be surprised if it has a few little issues. I don't think I've used this in a while, so I tend to stay with the templates I've made because, well, I can diagnose and pretty much figure out what's going on. All right, so we're going to go back through this. This is a quick overview. We'll go through these as an individual and spend a little bit more time on each one.